Sage Advice with Melissa is a new informative health and lifestyle show for you to gain knowledge and inspiration to help guide your journey to think, work, and live more powerfully. Whether you're trying to improve your life from a mental, physical, or spiritual journey, Sage Advice with Melissa Coleman, CEO of Sage Skincare, delivers weekly advice from the best experts to provide you with insightful suggestions to allow you to thrive with a better quality of life. It's her mission to guide you through the uncharted waters of health and wellness and to give you a voice on what can help improve your life and your mental, physical, and spiritual journey. Okay, audience, here's Melissa.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sage Advice with Melissa. I am your host, Melissa Coleman. You are listening to us here on KXOK 102.9 FM and also KWRH 92.9 FM. We're here with you every Saturday from what time are we here, Maddie? 11 to noon. Sorry, I'm just getting back from out of town and my brain is not quite here with me yet, but we are in our new month of talk shows. So we are having May as our month of mental health and awareness, which is what May is. And today, to talk about mental health awareness, we have Suzanne King. Sue.
Hello.
Yeah, hello. And Brittany Graham. Welcome to the show.
There.
Well, we are so excited to have you. We were having so much fun before we went on the air. So I'm going to share with our audience a little bit about you before we get into this topic, which I feel could be the topic like for the next year. I feel like there's so many aspects of it and so many components of mental health and facets and different degrees of it that it's like an endless topic of things to discuss and share with our audience. So I'm very thrilled to have both of you here. So since 2018, Sue King has served as president and CEO of MHA, which is Mental Health America of Eastern Missouri. She has worked in the nonprofit arena for almost 35 years with a primary focus on at-risk youth and their families. Throughout her career, she has been an advocate for strong, comprehensive mental health services for this population, understanding that mental stability is the foundation for success. She holds a BS in social work from Southwest Missouri State University and an MS in social work from Washington University here in St. Louis. She is a graduate of several Focus St. Louis leadership programs, Women in Leadership in 2013, Leadership St. Louis in 15, and Impact Fellow in 16. She currently serves as vice chair on the board of the Behavioral Health Network and serves on the Community Advisory Board for the Regional Health Commission and the board of the Illume Behavioral Health Center of Excellence, powered by Places for People, which is an amazing organization.
Yes.
So I love that organization. Brittany Graham is Chief Program Officer of MHA for almost 13 years. Brittany has worked in social work and the nonprofit field, primarily focusing on at-risk youth through a trauma lens. Brittany has a Master of Social Work from Southern Illinois University and a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from the University of Florida. She is a licensed clinical social worker in the states of Illinois and Missouri, rostered in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy in the state of Missouri, and trained in the integrative treatment of complex trauma. Brittany sits on BHN's Youth and Young Adult Services Advisory Board, and she represents MHA as a part of the St. Charles System of Care Group. She is also on the Missouri Children's Trauma Network Planning Committee. She is currently participating in the Child Parent Psychotherapy Learning Collaborative to become a fully certified in CPP, and that is
Child Parent Psychotherapy.
Gotcha. All right, we already said that, and I didn't miss the CPP.
There's lots of acronyms.
The brain is not fully engaged here. So, and as always, I have my beautiful co-host with me, Maddie King-Erger, family of
My
Sue
niece,
King.
my favorite niece.
I'm the only one, so that's
We're just keeping it all in
Just
the
claim that
family
title.
today. Yes,
That
yes,
we
yes.
know of.
That's true. All right, ladies, let's kind of just get into this. What does Mental Health America of Eastern Missouri do for your clients, patients?
Well, we first off, thank you for having us here this morning and talking about such an important topic as mental health. Mental health is really fundamental to our overall physical health. People often ask which is more important, physical or mental health, and the answer is both and neither, right? So if you neglect one of those, you're actually negatively impacting the other areas. So they're intertwined and they're interdependent on each other. At Mental Health America of Eastern Missouri, we offer a variety of programs, either that educate the community, provide direct support to clients, and or provide advocacy in our community, things around advocating for access to care, those kind of topics. Before I let Brittany kind of take a deeper dive into what our programs actually do, since she's over all of our programs, I just wanted to share that our dream is to build a thriving community and empower people by revitalizing our approach to mental health support one life at a time. So I'm going to ask Brittany to kind of take a deeper dive into what education support and advocacy means.
Yeah. So as Sue mentioned, we have several programs that touch on those topics that she spoke about. The first one that I think we're probably the most well known for is actually our representative payee program. And that is a program that manages Social Security disability funds for individuals with severe mental illness that are not able to manage their finances on their own. So we receive their funds through Social Security Administration, and then we pay all of their bills to take that stress off of them. So it's one thing they don't have to worry about. Sue can tell you from experience that being a payee is a very stressful experience for a family member. And so we're able to kind of shoulder that burden for those families to not only take the financial stress off of the individual, but also to help repair family relationships that may have been strained because a family member was their rep payee. So that's a really cool program. We've had that for like over 20 years. It's been around forever. We're pretty well known for that one. We also do have an education program, as Sue mentioned, which is what we call our wellness program. And through that program, we offer workshops that are really centered around mental health topics I always say for anyone that will listen. So nonprofits, for-profits, really anyone who wants to learn more about how to prevent burnout and compassion fatigue, and things that maybe aren't just addressing like depression and anxiety and the things that we hear about as mental health diagnoses, but getting to some of the kind of things that start to turn into mental health conditions if we don't address them early on. Also things on like building healthy habits. What does it mean to have a healthy routine and take care of your nutrition and your physical health? As Sue said, physical health and mental health are so both so important and so intertwined with each other that we're trying to educate folks on what it means to kind of take care of the whole body and not just the mental health side of things. We also have a collegiate council, which is really cool. And that is a group of local college students that come together and they work on different topics on campus that are related to mental health. So for example, at St. Louis University, we were able to get mental health first aid training as a mandatory requirement for all resident advisors, which is a really cool thing. So mental health first aid is a training that it's about 8 hours, and it really just teaches people how to get in there when there's a mental health concern and be a first responder for mental health, which, you know, we do CPR and first aid and all these trainings on the physical health side. Mental health first aid is around. We just don't do it nearly as much. So to be able to give college kids the opportunity to watch out on the dorm floors for things that might be kind of red flags of there's mental health concerns going on and give them the tools that they need to triage that is a really cool thing. And so they kind of pick a topic every year and or a goal, and they work towards that goal. And then of course we have our Peace Clinical program, which I'm sure we're going to talk more about today.
That gives me such hope listening to you two speak about this. But I am curious, since we have a huge national audience, are you able to speak on, are these programs pretty consistent throughout the U.S.?
Oh, that's so interesting. So if you know one MHA, you literally know one MHA. There's about 200 affiliates across the country. And we all operate with one similar philosophy, which is called Before Stage 4, meaning that we believe we should address our mental health issues and conditions at prevention, at stage 1, before any issues, before the crisis, and kicks in just as we do our physical health. So that's a common thread throughout all affiliates. However, some focus only on advocacy. Some have even a medical clinic and do like more kind of physical health along with mental health, and others do just simply counseling. So it's a wide variety, quite honestly.
That was a good question, because that was like my first thought when I saw that you are MHA of Eastern Missouri, that these are across the
Right.
U.S. And
Right.
so anybody in any of our states across the U.S., because we're in 100 cities, can go to any of these locations.
Right. If you Google like MHA.org, you'll
Mhm.
get, or I think it's MHAnational.org, you'll get the national site. And I believe there's a tab on there that says, look for
Search. Okay.
search for an affiliate in your
Okay.
state, your city.
Awesome. No, that's really important, because like Maddie said, we have a huge national audience,
Yeah.
like millions,
Mhm.
Awesome.
which is really
That's
nice.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have a really far reach. So tell us about your new clinical program, which you kind of
Yes, this is
Said
what
at
we're
the
really
end.
excited about. So as Sue mentioned, our binding thread across all affiliates is the before stage 4 philosophy. You know, in physical health, we do a pretty good job of like, you don't feel good, you just go to the doctor, right? A lot of times, if you have the access and the ability to get to a doctor, you'll go to the doctor and you'll get checked out, and we can catch a lot of things before they become really serious, right? Before stage 4.
Right.
We don't do that in mental health. That's not typical. So on average, there's about a 10-year window between the onset of mental health symptoms and the time someone goes to actually seek help. So you can imagine in 10 years, all the things that can go wrong. You can lose a job. You can have strain on lots of relationships, not just family relationships, but with husbands, wives, significant others. And so the goal here that we were kind of thinking about is in regards to our before stage 4 philosophy is, okay, what does it really mean to be before stage 4? And for us, that was getting to the root causes of mental illness really, really early to try to intervene early or prevent, if we can, adult mental illness. And we know that 1 in 3 adult mental health conditions is directly related to early childhood adversity. And so we launched our PEACE clinical program, Preventing the Effects of Adverse Childhood Experiences. As we mentioned earlier, we love an acronym. Social workers love an acronym. And so we created an acronym for our program. So Preventing the Effects of Adverse Childhood Experiences clinical program is a program that we designed to work with families with really young children. With the hope that if we can get into families' lives and offer support and therapeutic interventions early, that perhaps we can prevent these children from growing up with mental illnesses. There will always be a need for back-end work, and there's lots of great organizations doing that work. But if we can get ahead of it, we can not only help the individuals and the families, but save money in our healthcare system and have all kinds of other positive impacts. So we started looking at therapeutic interventions that would work with those really young children. And when I say young, I mean young, like birth through age 5. So very young. And that is a group of folks that people don't always think about mental health in terms of, people think the terrible twos is just the terrible twos. Well, actually, sometimes the terrible twos is a representation of some really bad things happening in a child's life that looks like terrible twos, quote unquote, but is actually a manifestation of stress that's coming from things happening in the child's life and the environment. So we started thinking about, okay, well, who are we serving with this program? And we were really targeting folks that have experienced adversity already or have had stressful events in their lives. So that would be things like children that have experienced abuse and neglect, children that have been separated from a parent. So maybe that's because the parent is incarcerated, or maybe the parents are divorced, or parent has passed away. Children that are living with parents that are using substances, that have their own mental health challenges. That's a really hard thing for children to grow up in that environment. And then also, here in St. Louis, where we're located, we have lots of adverse community experiences happening. So systemic racism and oppression and lack of economic opportunity. We have lots and lots of families, particularly in our city, in St. Louis City, living in poverty. That is an adverse community experience that impacts children. And so when you combine the things happening behind a children's front door, right, with the things happening in the community, we get this really, really bad situation for children to grow up in. And so so we started looking at interventions that would get to these things early. So if a children experience abuse at age 2, we get in there right away at age 2 and we start offering support. And so we started with an intervention called Attachment and Biobehavioral Catch-Up, ABC, another acronym for short. And we were the first providers in the state of Missouri to bring that intervention here. It was created out of the University of Delaware and is used fairly widely around the country, actually, as the premier kind of prevention and early intervention model. And so we were really excited to bring that to St. Louis. We currently offer child-parent psychotherapy, which myself and another one of our clinicians is offering. That's again for 0 through age 5. So we're hitting things really, really early on. And then one thing Sue's really excited about is we offer occupational therapy with a mental health focus. So a lot of folks don't realize that occupational therapy can really be used to protect children's mental health and to help them heal from mental health issues. And so that's a focus of ours. We're very fortunate to have a great occupational therapist on staff with us. And we're getting ready to add one of my favorites, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, which actually spans a little bit higher up to age 18. So for those young folks that maybe their young years were pretty stable, pretty good, but they experienced some things a little later in life, we'll get in there and work with them specifically on those traumas they have experienced and try to help them heal from that. With the goal being to try to prevent children from developing one of the root causes of mental health issues, which is toxic stress. And so we can talk more about that, but that's the program in a nutshell.
Yes, yes. That's an amazing program.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm curious because whenever I think about doing something, literally anything, I think, well, what do I have to do to make that happen? And then it starts to become overwhelming. I'm like, well, they probably want money from me or insurance, and I don't have anything.
Yeah.
So, how would you say the process is to get involved with any of these things that you just talked about?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked that
I am
question.
too, actually.
Yeah, because one of the things we focused on, Sue and I worked together for a lot of years in settings that are pretty stressful and chaotic for young folks. And so one of the things that we've seen a lot over our career is that one of the biggest barriers to receiving mental health care is finances, or is literally just being able to physically get to an office. And so we really wanted to design a program that was focused on reducing as many barriers as possible so that families could get to us easily. So right now, you don't have to have anything to come into our program. No health insurance, no nothing. It's free of charge. We will not bill you. So there is no financial stress on the family whatsoever to receive any of those interventions I mentioned. On top of that, every one of our interventions can be offered in the home. And in fact, we highly encourage that. ABC, for example, is done exclusively in the home or via telehealth. That's so families are in the environment, learning the skills they need in the environment they're living in. So you don't need to hop on the bus. You don't need to have a car or get a ride or have gas money. We will come to you wherever you are. We'll find you, we'll come to you. And the one really, really cool thing that even kind of makes that even better is that we can work with families that are transient. So if you happen to be in a situation where you're in a homeless shelter or you are maybe hopping house to house, it's okay. We'll come to each house you're at. As long as you stick with us, we will stick with you. So we really tried to make a program that was accessible, free, and could get the services out there without families feeling an extra burden of this is overwhelming and too much.
Right.
And just to reiterate that a little bit, so that's St. Louis City Families, thanks to Mental Health Board funding, St. Louis County Families, thanks to St. Louis Children's Services Fund funding, and then in St. Charles County, the CCRB funding. So because of those funding partners, we're able to offer those services free. So
we're very
I just want to plug them and say thank you.
Yeah.
Very appreciative of them.
Well, and just, that brings up a good point too, because given that MHA is, I'm assuming, nonprofit,
Right.
How does one go about supporting your group and donating? Because we've got a lot of listeners listening, and these groups need funding. So
Right. Absolutely. Yes, we do.
We'll take money.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it doesn't always have to just be with funding.
No,
but that's
no.
obviously very appreciative. We you can go onto our website, mha-em.org, and make a donation. There's a donate now button. That's easy. But we also, we just had a couple volunteers who helped us redesign our new mission statement. They did that pro bono. They donated their time and their expertise. So that's another way that people can actually get involved and actually offer things that then save us money on the expense end. That would be very valuable and meaningful to our organization. So
Absolutely. And can we just go back just a little bit, because you talked about the 4 stages of mental health, and you want to catch everybody before we get to that stage 4, which is what most of us want to do, is get there before the train is completely off the tracks.
Right.
So what are those stages that one can look for? Like if somebody is experiencing things either with their children, with a family member, what should we be looking at and paying attention to say, hey, maybe we should look at this now? I have a family member, which I think, had my parents done a better job when she was younger and really paid attention to those things and not sloughed them off to just normal teenage stuff, that we would be in a different position than we are right now.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
would share that, just a little bit of that.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I think mental health issues and problems present very differently in different people. But as a whole, I think things that I always tell parents to watch out for is, like, if you have a child that is really outgoing and, usually wants to go play with friends and hang out with you, and all of a sudden they're kind of like, no, I'm good, I'm going to stay inside, and they're starting to isolate. Isolation and loneliness is not great, as we all learned through the pandemic, right?
Mhm.
If we didn't know before, we know now that that is
Mhm.
dangerous.
Yes.
So when you see a kind of major behavioral shift in a child where it's like, okay, this is not your normal, that's always something parents want to get in there and start asking, what's going on? How are you? In the littles, one thing we talk a lot about is, again, when you think about terrible twos, kids throw tantrums, right? But we'll often hear from families, my kid cries for 3 and 4 hours at a time.
Right.
So first, we want you to go get checked out physically. We want you to go find a pediatrician and see if there's something physically going on with that child. If there's not, then we start looking into the environment and what's happening here. And is this actually, we hear a lot the term attention seeking. Children are not attention seeking, they're attention needing. They need attention. That is a basic need for a child. So if you're seeing your child kind of be extra, quote unquote, needy, pay attention to that. They need
Mhm.
something from you. They need you to respond to them. Kids at 2 can't usually say, I'm sad or I'm mad,
Right.
but I promise you they're feeling it. They have the
Mhm.
emotions, they just can't label them yet. So you have to look for those kind of shifts in behavior. In the older children and adults, it's kind of the same thing, honestly,
Mhm.
right? And I think now we live in a society where, thanks to social media, we know a lot of terms, and whether or not they're used appropriately is a whole nother situation. But we know a lot of terms. People know the term anxiety, right? So if you're hearing your kids say, like, I'm feeling really anxious, explore that with them. What do you mean by that, right? And if you're hearing things like, oh, I get really jittery and I can't focus, you might really want to think about, oh yeah, that's a thing. Or if it's like, oh, I just didn't like that, the way that person said that to me. That's not anxiety. That's just they didn't like something, right? So
Right.
kind of different things there. But really just paying attention to what are the verbal cues, what are the kind of physical manifestations that you're seeing that might be different from what you've always seen, are always things to look for. And then of course, people will often tell you how they feel. And sometimes in our society, we have, they'll say, I'm really having a bad day. Oh, me too. Okay, let's take a step back from that. While we all want to relate, sometimes we need to just say, oh, tell me what's going on. And sometimes that's enough to get somebody to say, no, I am really struggling right now. And I just needed someone to ask, because so often we don't listen to hear, we listen to respond. And the problem with that is then we miss the cues that you're asking about, when really someone might just tell you as an adult, like, I'm really struggling. I just went through something really hard. And I just needed someone to ask, because I didn't feel comfortable just coming out and saying, hey, Melissa, I just went through this really hard thing and I'm really struggling and I'm feeling sad. And all of those things don't always come out easily. So just looking for those little cues that are different than what you would normally see in your friends and family.
Mhm. Absolutely. No, it's so important. And I think, like you said, with the presence of social media now, it's like we have all the terms and all the things and, all the drugs and all this, but it's like, I don't think any of us pay enough attention to, like, especially the people close to us, like that shift in personality or that shift in I'm not going anymore, or, all of those things. And, we just want to remind our listening audience that, we are here to help educate and share and bring awareness. And I think you all are doing an amazing job today, and what your company represents and provides in our
Thanks.
communities.
The stigma and shame is very high and very real.
Yes,
And
yes.
so just to Brittany's point, like, just stop and listen, because whatever a person's feeling is truly what they're feeling. And so being able to listen and accept that somebody needs to talk or have a conversation. Number one, it's really hard to admit that you have a problem or you're feeling bad or you can't handle something emotionally. So just kind of remember that. And I think the more we actually talk about things, it normalizes the conversation. And then mental health is treated like our physical health, right?
Mhm.
You don't hesitate to tell people you are, have the flu or a cold or whatever, or that you go to the doctor and he put you on an antibiotic, but you absolutely hesitate to tell even your closest family members
Yes.
that maybe you went to the doctor and you are now on an antidepressant or something like that. So I say just stigma can kill us,
Mhm.
and it has killed people. So
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Yes.
People
Absolutely.
want to talk.
Mhm.
I
do,
I have a very calm aura sometimes. But what I have noticed I notice all the time that random people will just tell me things.
Mhm.
And that is because I hold space.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
I'm at the coffee shop and I ask somebody, "Oh, well, like, how are you? Like, what's going on with you?" And they're kind of like taken aback. And then they go on a rambling and then they're like, "I'm so sorry. I just trauma dumped." I was like, "I'm here. That is what I am here for." Like that is, it's like, no worries. Like I'm glad that my
Right.
energy's in check. But from what I was hearing from you, it's just like holding space, like
Mhm.
so that people feel like they can open up
can,
and talk
yeah.
about these things. Are hard to talk about. They're uncomfortable, and we have been conditioned in our society to not address them because they quote unquote aren't things, right? We can't see them.
Right.
So what is there to address? So I think that's really beautiful to bring up, is this idea of holding space, and maybe we'll talk about that more.
We will, because believe it or not, we're coming up on our break, which always makes me so sad because it's all such juicy, good information. But I want to give both of you opportunity to share how everybody finds you on your socials, on your website, anything that you might have coming up, that we can help support as well, like programming or donation or
Yeah.
things of that nature. So share away, ladies.
Well, we have Shine the Light on Mental Health, which is a campaign throughout the month of May for Mental Health Awareness Month.
Mhm.
So we ask people to switch out their light bulbs and put in green light bulbs
very
and show
cool.
that you support mental health. We ask businesses, corporations, and people now. We're kind of branching into individuals, like take your garage lights and make them green bulbs. So that campaign is only in its second year, and so we'll build that out. But just, again, that's a wonderful way to just show your support and solidarity with community.
Oh, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
And if you're in the St. Louis area and you know a family that needs some support, you can email us at referrals. That's referrals with an S at mha-em.org.
Awesome. And website again?
mha-em.org.
There
Yep.
we go. And are you on social media, or is the
We're on
website
Instagram,
Okay.
Facebook, Twitter, not so much.
yeah.
LinkedIn.
Okay.
And we're MHA_STL, I believe, on Instagram.
Oh, that's right. Thank
Not
you.
MHAEM.
You only get
We got
so
our
many.
government name
Right,
there on,
right,
on
right.
Instagram.
Well, no, I'm so excited to come back in the second half. And is there one little snippet tip or something we can leave our listening audience with as we halt over to our break?
I'm kind of going to piggyback off something that was just mentioned, and that is human connection is so stinking important. We
Yep.
cannot stress that enough. And I hope we can talk a little bit about that. tonight.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. All right, Jimmy, are we ready to go?
Yeah, one more minute.
Oh, do you really?
Mm.
All right. I was a little ahead of schedule. So just quickly, I just lost my train of thought. But for adult suffering, is there something that we can look for, really to be aware of for our adults?
I think adults are really good at masking things, which makes
Mhm.
this much more challenging. We've been conditioned over our childhoods and young adult lives to figure out how to hide things from people. But I think when you start missing work and you start not showing interest in hobbies that you once loved, people, that do intramural sports that now are like, I'm not joining the team this season. Look out for things like that. That's usually a big red flag that we're suffering. Our energy is running low. We can't keep up that mask the way that we had in the past.
All right, Brittany and Sue, we're going to be back with you all in just a few minutes, and stay tuned, everybody.
If you're looking for a new informative health and lifestyle show to gain knowledge and inspiration to help guide your journey to think, work, and live more powerfully, then you need to listen to Sage Advice with Melissa. Now, whether you're trying to improve your life from a mental, physical, or spiritual journey, Sage Advice with Melissa Coleman, CEO of Sage Skincare, delivers weekly advice from industry experts to provide you with insightful suggestions to allow you to thrive with a better quality of life. Melissa's mission? To guide you through the uncharted waters of health and wellness and to give you a voice to help improve your life. So be sure to tune in to Melissa. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, listeners, saying thanks to your customers is nice and polite, but expressing your gratitude in memorable and ongoing ways can boost your business. At Promo Experts LLC, we exceed our customers' expectations. For over 20 years, our product knowledge and experience has helped them with their marketing initiatives and trade show graphics. We are happy to put that experience to work for you. Quality products, great customer service, and prices are our number one priority. We work with you to find unique, creative, and new ideas that fit your image and expectations, helping you build strong relationships with your customers. When you select Promo Experts as your marketing partner, we help you to see more than the big picture. For more information about this exciting opportunity, contact Diane Carson, President, at 636-458-5241. That's 636-458-5241. Let Promo Experts help you to move your business brand beyond the bland.
Do you want to become a radio show host or do you want to create a radio show? Well, Dr. Stan Fine can help you to have your own radio show and put you on 100 cities daily across the U.S. And you can immediately start recording from a live radio studio. As a radio industry veteran, Dr. Stan Fine has 12 years of experience and has produced and hosted over 1,000 radio shows with over 10 million listeners. Dr. Stan Fine knows how to make this happen for you. He's a pro, and he can turn your dreams into a reality. Dr. Stan Fine will help you with everything from learning how to promote your show, develop a host persona, interview techniques, market your show on social media, teach you how to get guests and sponsors, and more. Dr. Stan Fine can put you on the air nationwide daily to 100 cities. If you're interested in making your dream come true, if you want to see how it all works, then give Dr. Stan Fine a call at 314-710-8413. That's 314-710-8413. You've got nothing to lose, and Dr. Stan Fine can help make your nationwide radio dreams come true.
Is your business struggling with getting found online? Are you having a hard time finding a marketing company that you can trust? Look no further than Vivial. At Vivial, we are experts at helping connect buyers to consumers by our innovative marketing strategies with proven methods that help businesses connect to their target demographic. For a free consultation, call Anthony today at 314-437-1906. That's 314-437-1906.
Have you always wanted to write your own book but don't know where to start? Publishing Concepts, a publishing company located right here in St. Louis, offers everything from consulting, book printing, copyrights, ISBNs and barcodes, print book layout, ebook and iBook layout, graphic design, cover design, ghostwriting, typing and editing, distribution, marketing, and more for an affordable price. Visit publishingconceptsllc.com or just Google Publishing Concepts to get started today, or call 314-781-8880. That's 314-781-8880. Publishing Concepts. We help you sell more books.
Many small businesses do not have a marketing manager. In many cases, it is the company owner that drives marketing and sales efforts with the gut instinct to survive. Even when small businesses do have a marketing manager, though, many of them are trying to navigate through the complex sales and marketing landscape with little to no success or budget.
How to Promote Your Business with Limited Money is a general purpose how-to business book written for business owners and marketing professionals by business owners Dr. Stan Fine and Joseph W. Clote. This guide is not intended to be read as a front-to-back chapter book and rather serves as a quick reference guide. Refer to this book as you need specific information and skip around as needed.
Promoting your business with limited money is one challenging feat, but there are unlimited ideas you can apply to achieve objectives you pre-establish. So put on your marketing hat and let's take action to start showing your prospects the value your business delivers.
A little you need to know about Dr. Stan Fine during his 60-year career. Dr. Fine has become an authority on sales and marketing business development issues. His presentations have made him much in demand as a speaker and seminar leader. He has taught business development topics at numerous universities across the United States and has conducted over 500 sales and management seminars. Some of Dr. Fine's credentials in corporate America are currently Dr. Fine serves as a co-host of the It's Your Business radio show on KDORH 92.9 FM in St. Louis and a co-host of Nationwide Daily Radio Show on my genre radio network on the Xeno Media platform. In 100 cities, he is also on a daily TV show on the Valuable TV and the Real TV networks. Go and get a copy of How to Promote Your Business with Limited Money today.
To purchase your copy of How to Promote Your Business with Limited Money, go to It's Your Business website at www.itsyourbusinessradio.com.
All right, everyone, welcome back to part 2 of Sage Advice with Melissa. I am your host, Melissa Coleman. You are here with us today in our month of mental awareness. We have 2 beautiful people here with us today helping share light on mental health and the awareness we all need to have as individuals. We have Sue King with us.
Hello.
And Brittany Graham of MHA, Mental Health America of Eastern Missouri. That is their chapter here in the St. Louis area, or Missouri area, I should say, because you're servicing city, county, and now St. Charles County, you said?
County.
So you're covering the whole area, getting all of us. So as we left the show, we were kind of talking about support and what we can do for our adults as well as our children. So, you were mentioning, Brittany, on break about having that mental support person in your space. So what does that look like for somebody?
Yeah, one of the best protective factors against mental illness in adulthood is having what we call a buffering adult. And that literally means having an adult that cares about you in childhood, that is going to help you when you're sad, mad, whatever, help you regulate your emotion, help you feel better. And what that does is that teaches the child to be able to regulate themselves. Right. So it teaches them that, oh, okay, I know how to do this because I had an adult that knew how to do it and they taught me how to do it. What that also teaches them is that we always say at our office, we can't stop life from happening. But what we can do is help you create connections and a support system that, when life happens down the road, you can go back to that buffering adult, to that person that you're connected to for support when you need it. And so what happens when you're now 10, 11, 12, something happens at school, you go back to the person you're connected to. And the cool thing about that is it does not have to be a parent, right? Not every child has parents that are really healthy adults, unfortunately, and that are able to provide that support for them. But they might have a teacher, a coach, an aunt, an uncle, a friend's mom, friend's dad, whoever. And so just having that connection to a supportive adult is so, so important for protecting a young person's mental health. That also goes into adulthood though, right? As adults, we live in this cancel culture now, right? And that's actually really dangerous because we actually do need people. So this whole hyper independence sort of thing, often born of trauma, number one, right? That's not always a good thing. We need people to help us in life. We need people to help us and support us when things get hard, when we go through loss, when we go through our own physical health and mental health struggles. Having a friend or someone that can sit with you in that, hugely protective from keeping you from falling into depression or anxiety or other mental health issues.
And let me ask you, because, we kind of touched a little bit upon COVID being such a game changer in the mental health arena. How has it gotten back to more normalcy now? Or do you feel like that independence and that self alone kind of work is still very prevalent, even within the communities that you serve?
Very prevalent. No, I do not think, I don't even know that we know what normal is anymore. I don't think we will ever go back to the way things were before. I think we're just trying to find a new normal. No, people are still feeling very isolated. Also, people lost a lot of people in the pandemic. So a lot of people's support systems are now gone. And so rebuilding as adults support system, that's actually way harder than building adult support systems as children, right? So there's a lot of still isolation and loneliness and hardship happening. There's still a lot of people that are financially trying to recover from the pandemic. And all of these things play into how well we can take care of ourselves and our mental illness. So no, I don't think we're back to normal.
No.
I don't know.
No, I agree. And the other thing, if you think about all the variety of workforce shortages throughout most industries, right? I think that's also contributing to a lot of mental health issues in adults, maybe for the first time in their life. So if you're the one working in a job and you're three people short, think of the burden now that's on you, and how then at some point people are feeling like they're burning out, or they're, it's just, I think it's really just kind of snowballing, quite honestly. And even in children's mental health, there was already an issue, a crises prior to the pandemic. Now the system's on fire, quite frankly. There's workforce issues. In Missouri, there's a huge lack of child and adolescent psychiatrists across our state, significantly short. There's a program that an advocacy group I work with called MO-CPAP. And what they do is train pediatricians to actually handle children's mental health, the mild to moderate issues in their offices. And they can call a hotline basically and talk to a child or adolescent psychiatrist and get advice on each case. So we have, I forget how many, but I want to say like 600 pediatricians, or it's probably greater than that, that in our state that are actually taking advantage of that, because there's not enough psychiatric care across our state.
I would also just add one thing in saying that, during the pandemic, hospital staff got so much, they're essential workers and they are so deserving. I mean, it was terrible for especially folks working in a hospital, but there were also social workers and therapists, all the people on the mental health side also took the brunt of that pandemic as well, but that was not nearly as publicized or talked about. So we have to take into consideration all the folks that are holding space, as Maddie mentioned earlier, for people that are struggling. They're burning out too, right? We vicarious trauma is real. Hearing people's stories day after day, over and over, that's what you do for a living. And I'm a trauma therapist, so I can say this from experience. You will burn out at some point. And the pandemic took a lot of our mental health field out as well. And that just wasn't nearly as widely talked about as the doctors and the nurses and the other folks that were first responders and essential workers during the pandemic.
And as you mentioned, for those of us that might be that supporting factor for someone, how does that person find that balance? Because if you've got somebody in that mental health world that is continually vomiting, especially the same thing over and over again, how do you find that balance? And when is it okay to say, this is enough? How do you, because you don't want to send that person over the edge, and you don't want to go over the edge, because it's like there's so many aspects that come into it. How do you navigate that?
That's like the $1 million question, right? Because the reality is, we've probably all heard the old adage, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? And we talk a lot about, you'll hear us say boundaries all the time at the office, boundaries, right? You have to know yourself though. And part of the problem is us as adults, we're always taking care of someone else.
Right.
You have to take care of yourself. And part of that is knowing yourself. So knowing when you are feeling a little off. If you're feeling a little off, probably not the best time to hear someone else's story, right? So I can tell you one thing I do with my friends, many of which who are also clinicians, so take that with a grain of salt, right? Is we will say, hey, I'm really going through something. Do you have the emotional space to hear what I'm going through? And then we have to trust that the person on the other end is going to say, I do not, and I'm so sorry. And then I have to not take offense to that if I'm the person that's, and then I maybe call another friend or my therapist, right? But part of that, I think the main part of that is you have to take really good care of yourself, know yourself first, and what you reasonably have the capacity to do. I think sometimes we really feel pressured because that's my sister, that's my mom, that's my best friend, that I have to listen to what is, I have to be involved. If you're going to take yourself out in the process, then nobody's good, right? Now I'm not good, you're not good. So knowing yourself first and where your kind of limits are and what you're able to absorb. And also know your space. Friends are not therapists, right? So friends are great listeners. Friends are great support. But if it's getting pretty deep, it might be time to say, hey, have you ever considered going to therapy? Have you ever considered talking to someone about that? And knowing that it's okay to, for lack of a better term, refer out. those people in your life that you love so much, but that maybe it is a pretty deep problem that I can't really deal with, but I know there are professionals that can.
Yeah, because I think it's so easy especially if you're in it, to like find that fine line and not tiptoe, especially in an area you're not qualified, and recognizing that, hey, this needs a little more attention than myself, and be able to say that, because I think that's just as important even for those that are suffering, because
For sure.
then you've got a whole nother class of people suffering too.
Well, it kind of makes me think of codependency, right?
Yes.
So if you're raised in a family where you are codependent, everybody's codependent, setting those boundaries is so much more challenging. And that's, I think, where maybe a need for a therapist or a group like CODA, could help somebody sort through, like, how is my codependency showing up? How come I can't say no? Why can't I do things for myself? I'm always, setting out the fire for the whatever family crisis. So I think those are areas too to explore.
I have 2 cents over here. So the answer always is to dance. So I don't.
That's actually facts. That's facts.
I don't know why you
That
always
is the answer.
beating around the bush
Music
here.
and dancing. You're exactly right. Movement. It is true. Movement. Yeah.
Really, truly though, like one of my friends was going through it, and I go, "Girl, why don't you just go to work?" And she was like, "You're right." And I held space for her, of course. But when you were speaking about knowing yourself, I think that's so important, because one of the things I've been solidifying, integrating in myself lately is, if the vibration is not high, if it is taking me down, I need to remove it from my life as much as possible. There's only a certain extent, we have family members where we cannot completely cut them out, and that's not fair. But you can definitely limit that, because there is truly only so much space, so much capacity, and you will have to take a sort of checklist of like, who's in my life, what's in my life, how does it affect me, and probably got to cut some stuff out. I mean, you just quite simply don't have time for everything, and that's okay. Like, I know that we live in this American culture where it's like, let's do let's not do everything. Like, let's sit back, let's breathe, let's dance, smell the flowers,
Yes.
hold the crystals, the things. Yeah, sorry, Beckett. My cousin, my aunt's son over here. That's okay. You don't have to hold the crystals.
I'll hold them for you, Becky.
Yeah, hold them. But I would just say, like, you're so right. Be in tune with yourself and start listening to the way that people feel when they're around you, and be able to refer them out. Say, I can speak from my own experience. I can reflect you back to you, because a lot of times people don't even want advice. They just want to be heard.
That is so true.
Or to see themselves. Like,
Right.
I'll come into the office and I'll word vomit, and then you all just like see me and hold space for me. And
And we
that
lay on the floor. There's a lot of laying on the
Yeah.
floor.
That's a
I like
thing.
that.
Ground yourself.
Yes.
Get low. Let the earth support you. That's a thing. That's a real thing. Yeah.
That's a real thing. I'm really blessed at our office, because I was going through it at the beginning of the year, and I came in and I laid on the floor the entire time.
Yeah.
It was a
And
whole day.
It was a whole day. And Melissa came and sat by me and was like, and Julie came in, and I made her like put an earbud in and listen to a sad song. The whole deal. But that's my tidbit. Dance, hold space, lay on the ground.
Yeah.
That's about it.
So good tips.
Yes. Which this next question, I think, follows well with this. So, and we touched upon it a little bit in the first half, but can you prevent mental health conditions?
Yeah, actually you can. there's a lot of research. So we know that one of the main causes of mental illness is toxic stress, right? And a little bit of stress is great. It actually gets us to work in the morning, and it gets, gets our goals accomplished, honestly. But when over time stress builds up from all of the things happening in our environment, predominantly, then it becomes toxic. And toxic stress actually in children changes brain chemistry. And
Mhm.
so when your brain chemistry starts to change, you can't sit still in a classroom. If you can't sit still in a classroom, what happens? You end up getting kicked out of a classroom. If you're not in a classroom, what are you not doing? You're not learning, right? And so you start right there. And I work with children, unfortunately, they've been kicked out of preschool. So figure that out, right?
Mhm.
So all that to say, toxic stress is preventable though. If we can offer services and support to families early, we can get in there and prevent that toxic stress from developing. The other thing I'll say that I think, and I'm thinking this, you mentioned something earlier. I got an ad on one of my social media. I was just scrolling and an ad for Lexapro, which I was just like, you got to be kidding me, right? And also I'm a therapist, so I'm sure it's listening to everything I'm doing. But all that to say, like, that's how easy it is. That's our society's fix for everything is medication. If you end up in adulthood, you've been, for example, a caregiver for 10 years, and you end up with anxiety or depression, that is treatable. I think we live in a universe where we think, well, if we don't prevent it, we're just doomed. We have it forever. That's just not true. We can treat depression. We can treat anxiety. We can treat mental illness. So even if we don't prevent that toxic stress from happening in childhood, which is doable, I want to stress that, we can offer support and services later in life that are still helpful and can still make someone feel better. This is not a hopeless situation.
Right. No, I love that you said that, because here on this show, it is all mind, body, and spirit. It is all about addressing the physical, the mental, the spiritual wellness of a body. And like you said, I mean, here we focus on all three of those aspects. But, the fact that our medical system is so designed now to give a pill, to Band-Aid a problem, because it doesn't ultimately fix it. And even if you are on a pill for a period of time, which is what antidepressants were designed for, it was a period of time because there's work that has to be done. And how do you deal with that in your world? Because I know so many young people are put on all of these pills, and just by changing some small things, not everybody, whether you're a kid or an adult, have to go there. And treat it that way. So
yeah, that's such a good point, because I think, so in my world as a clinician, I am a fan of medications when medications are necessary and appropriate. But to your point, medications treat a symptom. They don't treat the illness. That's all medications, right? So they're treating symptoms of mental illness. And so what we would like to see happen, ideally, from my viewpoint as a clinician, is if symptoms are severe enough that they warrant medication, let's use those. But then we need to find some other things to actually get to the root of what's going on. And to your point, the connection of mind, body, spirit, all three of those things are so wildly important for good mental health, right? And so sometimes we'll look at things like exercise. So research actually shows that a moderate level of exercise 3 to 5 times a week, just as effective as your favorite antidepressant for mild to moderate
for the brain.
depression, right? So movement, Maddie said this, right? Dance, that's not a joke. Get up and move. When we say exercise, we don't mean you have to run a marathon. Just move your body, right? Get that movement going. Also, one of the, I think, most underrated medicines that we use here in America is food. So there is they call your gut your first brain.
Yes.
Everything that's happening inside of your stomach, your intestines, and that sounds wild to some people, right? But it is directly impacting what's happening in your mind. If you eat a lot of sugar, guarantee you're going to be anxious. I can promise you will. Over time, that will build up in your system. Food is toxic to us in a lot of ways. We eat a lot of processed stuff in America. And so oftentimes I'll tell my families, start with veggies. Start giving your kids lots of veggies. You too. Everybody eat the veggies, right? Because food is meant to be fuel. And what we fuel our bodies with fuels our brain as well. We just miss that connection when we just give meds and we don't address anything else. And spirituality is important. Crystals, we laugh about crystals. I had a house full of crystals. So I am all in on the crystals. And I was telling them before the show, I drank my moon water on January 1st, set my intentions. I mean, I do all the things, right? But that is so important. People have to have something to believe in. And that doesn't matter what it is. Whatever you believe in, having something to believe in, believing there's something greater than yourself going on, whether it's the universe or God or Buddha or whatever, it's not really the important part. The important part is that third part of this whole person is met.
Absolutely. No, I love that. What about you, Little Miss Movement? You want to add to that?
Yeah, it's a very simple challenge, which is the 3-song dance challenge. Like, I just challenge you to pick out 3 songs and you just have to dance the entire time. That's like 10 minutes. of
I
dancing.
love that.
Mm-hmm.
Simple enough.
Mhm.
And I'm going to add, it does not have to be good dancing. And I'm going to add an
Yeah.
additional challenge. Sing
Exactly.
along. Okay.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if it's good. People say, well, I don't have a good voice. No one cares.
It doesn't
It's
matter.
not
None of
about
us
the goodness
do.
of the voice. Just
Right.
sing, let it out. That's expression, right? Expressing yourself is so good for your mental health.
And since you focus so much within your organization, starting at the younger levels, do you incorporate this with them, the movement, the food, and all of that?
Absolutely.
Is that
Absolutely. It is always a part of our conversations.
Mhm.
We also try to provide a lot of psychoeducation for families. So if I'm working with a family that has a 5-year-old that is seeing a psychiatrist for some reason, has been referred, they will almost inevitably always come back with a list of recommended medications. And I will always have a conversation with the family about what this could mean. How could this affect your 5-year-old? It is ultimately your decision, right? I'm just, I'm along for the ride on any family's journey that I'm working with.
Mhm.
So I respect whatever your decision is, but I do feel like as a clinician, I do have a responsibility to educate you on what will it mean if I do this? And then if a family says, I'm not ready to do this yet, they're only 5, then I'll say, well, let's think about some other things we could do. Let's talk about what are you eating? Let's look at your nutrition. Let's see. And for a lot of our families, because they might not have a lot of money, right? But if you have food stamps, we can actually use those at our farmer's market in Soulard, right? So if you can get to Soulard, if you're a family that could walk there, that's ideal, right? Let's go buy some
Right.
fresh foods. Let's go do
Right.
that. Our OT, movement is her jam. Okay.
Mhm.
So tracing a child on the floor and having them lay in different positions and things like that, sensory, all the sensory things, playing in beads, anything that's movement and getting your senses involved. So helpful. And I'll add that we do a lot of our therapies in conjunction with OT.
Okay.
So you might be seeing me for trauma therapy and also seeing our occupational therapist for OT. And so you're kind of getting a double dose of, so you're getting the psychoeducation and the here's my recommendations for physical kind of things we can do. Also, I'll refer to a PCP in a heartbeat. Go to the doctor, get checked out, see what's going on there, right? And then she'll come in and do the added sensory and movement stuff with the child. So it's, yes, we're covering the gamut of what we offer there for children. We're not just on the take your medicine or whatever
Right,
train. Yeah,
right? Which is so important. You know, we want to let people know there are other options out there
absolutely.
versus just the pills
Yeah.
that affect us. Believe in it or not, ladies, we are actually coming up on the end of the show. It goes so fast. I didn't even
Nice.
take a break to even let everybody know where they were tuning in because I just felt like the conversation was so great today. But again, one more time, share what's going on, how they can reach you, and we'll go from there.
So our website is MHA-EM, like so Mental Health America of Eastern Missouri.org. You can look Sue King up on LinkedIn.com. We have Instagram, which Brittany knows the
It's
Instagram.
at MHA_STL.
All right.
And we're also on
Yeah.
Facebook too.
Yes. And share again about the
Oh, and the
Shining
referral.
Light.
Oh, Shine the Light
Yes.
campaign. You can go on our website and get some more information. But basically, change your light bulbs green for the month of May and just support your neighbors, your family with focusing on mental health this month. Commit to doing one positive thing for your mental health, even if that's just playing outside for 20 minutes. That will help.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. And if you're in the St. Louis or St. Charles area and you want to refer a family to us for support, you can do so at referrals. That's referrals with an S at MHA-EM.org.
And what about adults for Rep Payee program?
You can send it to the same email.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Everything, we vet all of that. So whatever you need, if you send it to that email, we'll figure out what program might be appropriate for you and we'll get it vetted out.
Awesome. So the referrals is just like if they know of a family that is needing some
Yeah.
help
Yep.
or a child,
Yep.
adult, they can just refer and you'll reach out.
Yep. It'll either be me or one of our
Okay.
clinical team.
That is
Yep.
amazing. I
Yep.
love that. I
Yep.
love that for the people. We just want to thank you again for joining us. I think this, like we said in the beginning of the show, is such an important thing to be talking about today. I love how it is so much broader and brighter in the mainstream, mental health, because I think people are really starting to take it seriously, and it's important to really share it, spread it, and be kind to one another. So
Yes,
like we
for
like to
sure.
leave everybody, health is a state of mind, wellness is a state of being. Be good to everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.